So I want to start this off, if you've decided to stick around, with what DEI is to me and how I see it. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and all that stuff. It is nothing more than a bold-faced lie. It has always been a lie. And the reason why I say that, it actually, in addition to it being a lie, it's also a smokescreen. And give me a moment and I'm going to explain this to you. And you'll actually start to think like, yeah, maybe this guy, he's telling the truth. He might be onto something. The thing that I don't quite understand is if these people feel so, and when I say these people, I mean gays, that sort of people. If they feel so marginalized that they can't find work, they're being so discriminated against, then why are so many of them actually being hired by various companies, Microsoft, you name it, across the board, brought in at very high positions, like lead art director, creative director, the positions where they are the movers and shakers of that particular game. What they say, they either give the thumbs up or they have great influence over the entire project as a whole. I just find it interesting that if they were so marginalized, how are they getting all these types of positions? So again, this is why I say it's really a smokescreen. I'm going to give a couple of examples here too. The easiest example would be to talk about Dragon Age: The Veil Guard. Now, this is a franchise that has been around a long time. It is one of the greatest gaming franchises, period. Even if you're not into the style of game of an RPG, you have to acknowledge that franchise definitely did great things. However, with Veil Guard, they decided to have a man masquerading as a woman as the lead, like the top dog, like the creative director. And, when I first saw the game, and I'm just speaking about this as an example, I will move on to Avowed and the other games and Kingdom Come to Deliverance, but I want to just talk about Veil Guard for a second. When I first saw the game, I actually liked what I seen from the graphical standpoint. I know many people didn't like the art direction. They felt, I remember, they felt it was very Fortnite-like. It wasn't a deal breaker for me. I did like what I saw, and I did like the combat, what I seen. When I discovered it was being led by a child, my thought was like this: why? And and to some that might be a negative way to look at things, but based on my experience and how most of the times when there is someone of that community that is spearheading a gaming project, generally the game flops. It becomes a financial disaster, and the studio may or may not close. I mean, you can go down the line. And, if you are new here, I've spoken about this many different times. I've actually created a playlist on this very thing. I'll link that playlist in the description. But it's not a coincidence to me. So when I saw, the Corinne Bush, the Dragon Age, I knew that the game was not going to be in top form. So we fast forward to launch, right? The game came out. I actually bought the game. I wanted to try it out for myself. And, everything stayed the same in terms of I liked how the graphics were. I personally liked the combat. And the music was good too. I didn't even know that they had Hans Zimmer do the music for the game. But the self-insert Tosh character, if you've played Dragon Age: Veil Guard, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There were many memes made out of this character. Basically, it's a mental illness by gender. What is it? Whatever it is. The one that doesn't know if it's a man, doesn't want to acknowledge it's a woman. Say the character is completely insufferable. You can do nothing to get rid of the character. You can't really admonish the character in the game. It's like the game is forcing you to kowtow to agree with this character's perspectives. And it was the game has at many times been very preachy to pronouns, and so ultimately the game ended up dying. Right, the game is dead. The franchise is dead. Then you later learn that this creative director, Corinne Bush, decides to up and leave the company after 4 months of the game being out. And now I'm hearing, I don't know what the current rumors are, but at the time that was seen, I guess, in the company Wizards of the Coast. I don't know if that's true or not. I have to look that up. So this comes back full circle to whenever I hear this DEI, this thing of these people wanting to be included and like as if they don't have opportunities in this space. When this man came in, destroyed the Dragon Age Veil Guard, the Dragon Age franchise, and has essentially jumped ship and is now going off to another company to ruin another franchise. So let's speak to real quick what I learned about this guy that was the lead creator of Dragon Age. What I ended up finding out was this guy had spent many years in The Sims. The game The Sims. The game The Sims. I don't really play it. My sister kind of enjoys those types of games. This guy has never had experience creating or leading a team that centers around an RPG style game. So you hired someone to be the lead creative director of one of your biggest franchises, but this guy has never worked on a game of that type ever. So again, circling back, this diversity, equity, and inclusion, basically because this dude is masquerading as a woman, he was gifted that position, that lead position, to essentially come in and ruin the Dragon Age franchise. So the way I see it, nothing really good comes from putting these people in these types of positions, because the game comes second. What comes first is their agenda, what they want to push, the identity politics that they want to force onto the rest of us normal heterosexual men and women that basically make up the vast majority of the gaming universe. And we are the ones that pretty much made the Dragon Age franchise the success that it is, because we're the ones that bought the game, supported the game, bought all the DLCs. Now, that's not to say that there weren't any gays, lesbians that didn't play the game in the past, and I'm not saying that. But let's not kid ourselves. The vast majority of those sales came from us. So now you decide, BioWare, to put as the lead, like it was destined to fail. And it wasn't my opinion. The statistics show it, and the game died. And then the fallout is that there's the potential of the studio being closed. And it's the backlash, it's the after effect that I think a lot of people don't want to acknowledge. Because when you come in and you ruin a franchise and that game doesn't do well, you're going to do well. You could just go on and move on to another company, right? But what about the other people that maybe spent a year, 2, 5 years in a company that are not very high up on the totem pole? Now those people are potentially losing their jobs because of this dude that wants to push his agenda and have the game come second. So that's really my stand in where I'm at with Dragon Age as a franchise. Now, when you look at this next game, Avowed, this is a game I've yet to play. I didn't have my game, I'm poor, so I had to sacrifice a couple of subscriptions, and so I missed out on Game Pass last month. Today, I renewed my Game Pass subscription. So I'm gonna give the game a chance. I'm gonna download the game, and I'm probably gonna stream it and just see for myself. But that game has many people divided as well. I've seen some creators, they're showing a bunch of glitches, and some people like the game, some people don't. But one of the things I found interesting was, again, we have the lead creative director. I believe this person's name is Carrie Patel. And I've seen a few interviews. And the thing that was going around with that particular person was, I don't know if you've probably seen it, where this person said, in order to do something good, you have to have a little bit of jank in the game or something like that. And, I'm tolerant. I mean, hell, I've played Bethesda games. So if you've ever played a Bethesda game, you know to expect some glitches, jank, or whatever, right? But the thing that I found interesting was that this person was never a creative director of anything. Sounds very similar to the issue with Dragon Age, right? So this woman, Patel, I learned that this person has a very short career in gaming. Most of this person's credit was lead writer, right? This person was a writer of the game, never a creative director. So whatever issues Avowed has can be easily, in my opinion, traced back to either the game engine that the game is built off of, and or the fact that you had someone placed in a creative director role that simply just did not have the experience of being in that role. And it's just, so I don't know. I'm gonna try the game. I'm gonna see how it is for myself. I'll probably more than likely stream it. So definitely subscribe to this channel and also follow me on my Twitch. It's the exact same name, Red Related, just with a 1, and check me out there. But it's gotten to the point now where many people who feel how I feel, when you hear that a gay guy, a lesbian, that is in a high position within the game's development team, you're at this point where you're like, here we go, the game's ruined. And that's kind of where I find myself, because I'm looking at all of the games that have had this identity politics, the virtue signaling, the pandering. They have all failed, at least 90% of them. And, games like a Dragon Age should have easily been a Game of the Year contender last year in 2024, but it just ended up flopping for obvious reasons. So, I do feel 1000% this whole DEI and the pandering, the extreme woke, all of these things, all these nonsensical things have a negative impact on gaming as a whole, 1000%. And if you disagree, I would please argue your case in the comment section. And because I'm a very tiny channel, I best believe I will 100% get back to you, because I would love for anybody to explain to me how all of this woke in the alphabet community, how is this a good thing for the gaming industry? Because as from where I sit, from where I see things, it has basically killed various franchises. And that is not my opinion. That is an actual fact. So, now that brings me over to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Now, the lead creative director of that game, Daniel Vavra, I've made a couple of videos on this game, but I will say that the game is essentially a success, right? It has definitely shattered maybe even its own expectations, but it did have that, even though people will say that, well, it's a choice, just don't make the choice. And then you got other people that feel that because the character Henry, the protagonist in the game, was originally a canonical Christian heterosexual man, the fact that now in the second game, there's an option, there's a choice placed into the game. There are many people who hate it. There are many people who just say, get over it, play past it, and enjoy the game. Me personally, as somebody who is in his 40s, and I've played basically everything under the sun, and including the original Dragon Age and Mass Effect, so I've played games that has had those gay options, and I just made the straight option and I continue with my game. So I've gone through that. But over the years into where we're at now, it's like this thing is being forced in such a prominent way that at this point my tolerance for it is just out the window. I'm just like, look, I'm done. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I question what was the point of putting that as an option in the game, period. Because you have to factor in this. The manpower, the graphical assets, the time it took to create and render those gay homo scenes, all of that overhead, everything that was involved with that could have been used to enhance the actual game from a graphical standpoint, frame rate, maybe weapon animations, something else that instead of focusing scenarios, you could have actually, and this also goes the same for Dragon Age Veil Guard and every other game, instead of 7% of the human population, you could have utilized that time and those resources to better the game itself. So this is where we ultimately get to the whole agenda that you may or may not have heard, ESG. And again, I will hearken back to my older my playlist where I've spoken about this at length. Okay, that this is a faction, an entity, a company that is funded by very powerful financial holding companies like a Vanguard, State Street, BlackRock, for instance. This is why so many companies do this, because the more boxes they check off, the better, the more funding they will get from that ESG account, and also favorable shareholders and things like that. So it's all incentive based. So that's why that exists. And that's why a lot of these games continue to push this messaging, this ideology. This is why. But again, I've covered that in great detail. So again, I'll add this video to that playlist, and I'll have the link to that playlist in the description of this video. So check it out. But yeah, ultimately, I'm not a fan of the virtue signaling. I'm tired of it. It's gotten to the point now where my new favorite style of game is actually those retro style games with it looks like 16, maybe 8-bit graphics. If you've ever played a game called Blasphemous or the upcoming Ninja Gaiden Ragebound game, that type of style, those type of graphics, those are now my favorite games now, because very little, if any, DEI nonsense in those games. It's just you have a storyline. There's no identity, virtual signaling bullshit. It's just you play the game. So those are pretty much now my favorite games, honestly. I just think that the current trajectory that the gaming industry is on right now, it is not a good one. I'm not a fan. But hey, you know what? Tell me what you think. Do you think this is good for gaming? Personally, I don't, but I would love to hear your thoughts. Anyway, thanks for letting me rant. Sorry this wasn't a sexy, cool, B-roll laden video. This is just me talking head, but I had these thoughts, and hopefully, you know, if you appreciated my thoughts and want to rock out with me, please subscribe if you haven't already done so. Like the video so I can kind of, you know, get over that whole YouTube algorithm. But anyway, take care. Peace.